entertaining podcasts I listen to. I don't listen to many. That one, Francine, is a different point of view. It's a female point of view, but someone who's been through the hardcore wars.
Yes.
So what Francine has to say to me matters and is important. And there are two guys up in New York, Monte and the Pharaoh.
Mm-hmm.
I find them hugely entertaining. I find them fun to listen to. But those three are the only three podcasts really other than, the PW Insider stuff that I listen to at all.
All right, welcome back to Long Island's #1 pro wrestling broadcast, Monte The Pharaoh, only seen out of Monte and Jimmy's room, where we were hoping to be in studio by this time, Jimmy. But let's introduce our star of the show, Johnny the Bull. Eric Sims has finally got his man. Johnny, how are you, buddy?
Good, Monty. Thanks for having me. And the Pharaoh, good to meet you guys.
Pleasure to meet you. I got to tell you, man, you look like you're in as great a shape as you were back in your wrestling days. What do you got going on there, bro?
So I stopped working out for like 2 years, if you can believe that. Because I had my son. My son's almost 3 now. So, I just didn't have time. And then the last 2 months, I just started working out hard in the morning. I wake up early in the morning, like 5:30, 5 o'clock, and I'm at the gym for about an hour, hour and a half. I got up to like 280 before. I was kind of like, I wasn't fat, but for me, I could hear myself breathing. And then when I started hearing myself breathing, I was like, all right, I got to get back into shape. So now I'm like 245. So I lost about 40 to 50 pounds. And I'm in wrestling shape where I was before I kind of retired. So
Mike, I got to tell you, I'm a little bit in shock. I haven't seen any recent photos of Johnny. I haven't seen what Johnny looks like now. And it's kind of blowing my mind because Johnny had a certain look then. And I look at Johnny now, and yeah, he still looks like a wrestler, except now I look at him and I see him throwing around trees in the forest.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Well, it's working. It's working, my man.
Yeah. Actually, my wife's family, they got some houses up in Flathead Lake, Montana. So we go up there for about 2-3 weeks, and I'm throwing around trees. I'm not the brightest sometimes. We have some black bears that come up and try to attack our llamas.
You throw them around too.
Yeah, no, we chase them off we're throwing rocks at them. We chase them up the trees. Like we're not like there's a little bit of liquid courage going on there.
Well, I got to ask you about that, right? Because I remember when I was in the military, right? This guy I knew from Maine, he told me black bears are severely dangerous, aren't they?
Yeah.
Like I said, I'm not like, I'm not the smartest sometimes when I mix in a little alcohol with it.
Some good.
They weren't. It was the cubs. The mother died, and the cubs were trying to come in, and they were still. That cub would rip you a new asshole, if he got a hold of you. So we ran him up the tree. We didn't hurt him. We just ran him up the tree. So
I gotta ask you, and this is only an assumption, but I'm assuming you hit the gas back in the wrestling days, and even before you got into wrestling.
Yeah. I don't have it.
But does it get a bad name? I mean, is it really that bad for you?
Well, it does get a bad name if you're doing it right and you're watching your blood work and your different levels, like your hormones, your estrogen levels. Because like if you do a shot of testosterone, it could bump your estrogen levels. You want to keep it balanced, so you have to take some estrogen blockers to kind of like, just to give you an example to compare it to. Like when you see bodybuilders, they're doing 2 to 3,000 milligrams a week, whereas I'm doing maybe 300 to 400 milligrams a week, just to kind of give you some contrast of what I'm doing, which is maintaining. If you're just doing the minimum dosage, you could, because I've been doing it on and off since I was 19. Vince McMahon came up to me one day and goes, Johnny, you got to get bigger. I was like, well, how do you want me to do that? Like, I don't know, figure it out. And I was big then. I was 200 pounds then. 18 years old, I was 200 pounds before I even got on the gear. So if you do it in moderation, you're going to be fine. Like I've had my heart checked. It's not enlarged. I'm healthy for the most part, and I've done some stuff in the past where I didn't know what I was doing, but as I've gotten older, I've learned how to do it the right way. And also now there's peptides. Like you don't need the gear as much anymore because the peptides can convert. Like you can do ipamorelin, which is a precursor to growth hormone. You have that naturally in your body. So all you're doing is a peptide, and you're kind of throwing fuel on the fire, and it's increasing your natural growth hormone. There's the science with peptides now are great, and it's healthier for you. But yeah, I mean, there's you as long as you're doing it in moderation, you're fine.
I'm always amazed how doctors, because you've seen athletes, right?
Yeah,
You're an athlete. We've seen football players who have blown out their knees and returned in less than a year, and they're
yeah,
hitting growth hormones. I mean, to be honest with you, I've read some articles where human growth hormones actually can reverse cancer and do things like that also. So I'm just surprised that diet still
Doc,
remains to have a bad name, right?
well, doctors they're only going to, especially American doctors, they're only going to tell you what they've been, what they've been educated in and what they get paid on by insurance. They're very tunnel vision. Like I had every doctor that I ever spoke to say that I would never get my wife pregnant. And that's because of the testosterone that I'd done, for the most of my adult life. I was like, okay. So I came off testosterone for 2 years, which was tough. And then I did everything that I needed, like the HCG to kick on your natural testosterone. And then I did HMG, which helps with your FSH and your LH levels to communicate to your nuts and start producing fertile sperm again. So my sperm count went from 0 to 200 million. And I didn't tell the doctors what I was doing. I was just researching this myself and doing it on the black market and just watching my own blood work. And then we froze the sperm, and then I got my wife pregnant naturally. And he's a healthy boy. He's spitting image of me genetically. Like you look at his shoulders, his traps, like he's 98th percentile in size right now. His name's Brody Carmine Hugger. Carmine is his godfather. He's Carmine Stamboli. That's the original Stamboli.
Well, congratulations. That's a proud papa right there, Jimmy,
Yeah,
right? So you can
yeah, I'm
hear it in his
happy.
voice. That's a proud papa right there.
And,
Yeah,
I'm thinking to myself, what's he going to tell the doctors anyway? I'm busy communicating with my nuts.
yeah, yeah. When they saw
Well
my
done.
blood work,
Well
they
done.
thought it was what they were telling me was working, and I'm like, no, doc, I didn't
Yeah.
tell you, but I added some HMG to the mix of what you told me. They told me to do HCG and Clomid, and that wasn't working. So then I went on a Facebook bodybuilding page and I asked those guys. I was like, you guys are doing 2 to 3,000 milligrams a week of gear. What are you doing to get your wives or your girlfriends pregnant? And that's when they all started chiming in about HMG. So the blueprint is come off testosterone, or for guys like myself that want to get the girls pregnant, come off testosterone, get on HCG, HMG, and Clomid, and then your FSH and your LH levels will normalize, and then before you know it, you're going to have a healthy baby on your hands.
Johnny, if I can get this in, as Mike just threw up that picture of you, man, that physique. Um, to the average fan at home, can you tell by looking at somebody if they've done too many steroids? Can you tell? I know all body types are different, but is there a way to just tell for the fans sitting at home? Like when you look at Warrior, I always thought to myself, my God, this can't be healthy. Is there a certain way that you could just tell?
Yeah, yeah, because you could tell like when someone first gets on the gear, the first thing you notice is their traps get bigger, their neck gets bigger. Like this area right here starts getting bigger. You could
Okay.
tell when someone's doing too much growth hormone because their forehead starts growing out a little bit. Their joint, their elbows, their joints start getting bigger. Like
Like Barry Bonds, his skull got okay. I'm with
yeah,
you.
or Mark McGuire.
Right.
Yeah. So you can. There's subtle things that you look at it. If you like Cena, for example, and I kind of believe him because he had a degree in like uh in I don't know exactly but in working out, whatever it was. Anyway, because I would ask him like I would work out with him and I asked him like, how are you so big? Because he wouldn't go in there and do explosive heavy weights. He would just do high reps and low weight, high reps and like very like controlled. And I asked him, I was like, dude, you've never done any gear? He's like, no. And he stood by it. Like there's just certain people that have that genetic where they don't need it. But then I still to this day, because he has the forehead, his forehead is elongated a little bit, his elbow. I think that he probably did or does or still does. Um, but he'll never. I don't care. There's no shame, and I don't care. Just because you get on gear doesn't mean that you're going to hit the ball farther, or your hand-eye coordination is better, or you're going to be a better athlete. It can make you bigger, but it can also work against you too.
Well, here's the reality of it too, Johnny. Right? It's like as you get older, I'm on testosterone now once a week. Right?
Yeah,
Yeah, so it's like
it's great.
you're gonna have to go on therapy. And the fact of the matter is, I was dragging ass, and once they started checking my test levels, the minute I started hitting that stuff, I felt like I was 19 again.
Yeah. It's especially when you get older. Like, so your testosterone levels you could have like 1100 testosterone, but the important base of that is the free testosterone.
Right.
So if your free testosterone is low and then your estrogen levels are high, you're kind of like hitting the gas and the brakes at the same time. So you want to get your free testosterone checked. Are you going through the doctor to get it?
I get it through the doctor, but
Yeah, so they probably watch all that stuff and they watch your estrogen levels too.
but my free testosterone is still low, right? So my regular testosterone levels have risen, right? Because I think I was under 100 at some point.
Yeah, you want to get that free testosterone up. And the best way to do testosterone is because it has a shelf life of or a body like for like 6 days it stays in your system. So I break it up into like I'll do a half a cc on Tuesday and then half a cc on Friday. So I keep it level in my blood throughout the week. You know what I mean? So it stays level. That's the way that I do it. But
well, we'll have to talk about that more later. So, Johnny, first of all, again, thank you for joining us. You'll be at the big event with ESS Promotion, so I'm sure fans are going to be going crazy. You have not been around, so this is a big opportunity for them.
I wasn't sure. Like Eric was telling me, like there's people that want to see me. I was like, really? I haven't. And the thing I was telling Eric the other day, like now you can stream matches, and these kids get on and they stream like some of like my buddy Giancarlo. His nephew is like 8 years old, and out of the blue, his nephew was talking about wrestling to Giancarlo, and Giancarlo goes, "Who's your favorite wrestler?" And he goes, "Johnny the Bull from the FBI." He was like, "What?" He goes, "That's one of my best friends." He goes, "No, it's not." And he called me immediately, and I was like, "How do you know who I am?" He goes, I get on and I stream." He goes, "Because he's Italian," and he gets on and looks for Italian wrestlers, and my stuff pops up. The FBI pops up, Brooklyn Brawler pops up. So he watches all that. So it's funny how people still know who I am, and I haven't been on TV in 15, 20 years.
That's very cool. I want to go back a little bit to when you got off the juice for a little bit. How did your body maintain? Did you start to lose size? And if it did, was that fucking with your psyche at all?
Well, so when you come off testosterone, you kind of turn into a bitch. Your estrogen levels rise. You get emotional.
Ooh.
Your sex drive drops. And I
Ooh.
warned my wife because this was all planned. And I told her, "Here's what the doctor told me, so I have to do this." I didn't. I did lose some size a little bit, but I gained a little fat too, and then my energy dropped. I was tired, but it didn't last long because of the ACG and the HMG and the Clomid. It started. My levels were still kind of low, but it was creeping up to average. So yeah, I mean, it did affect. I kept well first before I got on it. I was 200 pounds in high school, so
Damn.
I was still pretty solid.
Right.
Before I got on it. So I didn't really lose much size. And then when you factor in the growth hormone that I did, the growth hormone you keep. Like you don't whatever you gain from growth hormone, you keep that. So and I would do like growth hormone like 3 IUs in the morning because that's when your growth hormone levels are at its highest. So I do 3 IUs in the morning. And you can feel when growth hormones in your system, you can feel it. Like you feel great, but your hands start hurting because you can feel it in your joints. That's how you know it's working. But at the same time, like with growth hormone, you have to you have to make sure that you don't have any cancerous cells because it can speed it up.
Mm.
If you have to watch that. A lot of people are just to think about what I did. I'd always get my blood work. The older, when I first broke into wrestling, I was super naive. I didn't know, like, I wasn't naive to the world, but I was naive to the world of wrestling. Um, and as I've gotten older and wiser and humbler as life throws its curveballs at you, I've learned to research a lot of the things before I start talking about it.
So go ahead, Jimmy.
Well, it's interesting, Johnny. We talk about it all the time on the show. You said, you knew about the world, but you didn't know about the wrestling world. Got to ask you, is the wrestling world just like the world? Because we talk about it all the time that the wrestling world is a microcosm and reflection of what people really are in real life. So, did you find
I,
it to be just like your testosterone, a drop and then a leveling off? Oh, wow,
I,
this is the
I
same thing.
that's that's funny you said that because I had a conversation with this Chuck Palumbo a while ago. Getting into the wrestling world, it opens up to your eyes to a lot of things and how a lot of things could be a work. Like even like with politicians, the Republicans and the Democrats, they're shaking hands behind closed doors,
Mm,
but the storyline is they hate each other.
mm.
They're all on the same team, or whether it's basketball or baseball, it kind of everything seems like it's a work now. Once you get into it, I don't know if it ruins your perception, but or just opens up your eyes to the world because a lot of the information that's out there, it feels like it's a work, like we're all getting worked.
Johnny, you hit it right on the head. We were just discussing how, people talk about how fake wrestling is. We're starting to realize that football, basketball, baseball, we're all being worked.
Yeah,
John, we don't just talk about wrestling on the show. We want to know how the wrestler feels about real life, okay? Because you guys
yeah.
influenced a lot of people through your career. I mean, you must feel great that you must have influenced so many people out there with your career. But I've got to ask you, what are your thoughts about the assassination of Charlie Kirk?
I think that's awful. Like whatever your political point of view is, like he was a father. He lived over by me in Scottsdale. He was a father. He was a husband. He had his beliefs and he stood by his beliefs. A man that stands on nothing will fall for everything. And I'm a Christian. I'm not like I'm not crazy where I'm at church 2 3 days a week, but I believe there's a higher power, and whether you're a Christian or not, there's still a lot of good things that are in the Bible that you could learn from, like Proverbs. When I was over in Mexico City for a year and I was alone, I would just read Proverbs every day to keep me focused. But I love Charlie. I think Charlie Kirk was an awesome person. Whether you and if everyone says that there was a lot of rhetoric that he threw out, whether it was racist, and he gave everyone the opportunity to talk. Like he just tried to debate everyone. That's all it was. And that's another thing. I don't know if I don't think it was that kid that killed him. I think there's more going on with the powers that be that wanted to silence him because they were scared because he would have been president one day.
Damn, Jimmy, he called it. He called it. It's exactly what we've been saying, right, Jim?
Yeah.
Yeah, I felt that he was a future president. Johnny, what was your reaction? For people who try to destroy everything that Charlie Kirk really was and everything that he had built up. What was your reaction when you see on social media the very same people who would be the first on the top of the mountain pointing and calling racism and this, that, and the other thing, celebrating the death of a man who wanted to talk things out with comments like "your homie dead,"
Yeah.
things like that. How did that make you feel at that point? Because I mean,
It,
talk
it,
about
it, it
being
didn't
forced
surprise.
into a conflictual narrative. That really brought some strong emotions out of me. Your thoughts?
It didn't really surprise me. With all their reactions and everything that was going on. Like, here's the thing: I didn't realize how much it would have bothered me. Like after he was shot and killed the way it was, like I was honestly, and I didn't think it mattered to me as much.
No.
But I was pretty upset about it. And even leading up to that poor girl in North Carolina that got stabbed in the neck. Did you see
Yeah.
that video?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Well, with the
Like,
comment,
as
I'm
soon as
sorry,
he
Johnny.
stabbed her,
With the
yeah,
comment,
as
I
soon as he
got the white
stabbed her,
girl.
she didn't
Yeah.
know. Like, she just looked up at him, and the look on her face was terrified. And all of a sudden, she just bled out. She just fell over and bled out. Like, I was already upset about that, and then leading into Charlie Kirk, I mean, it brought some emotions out of me. Obviously, I'm not going to react on it, but it made me want to fight. It made me, it made me, now after the dust has settled, I'm a little more calmer. But for a brief moment, I wanted to, get a little violent. But obviously, we're adults, and that's not the right thing to do. So like when you see they're all pointing the finger at us, calling us Nazis. First off, you call me a Nazi. What's the difference in calling me a Nazi or calling someone the N word? Like
Right.
it's that offensive to me. You call me a Nazi. Like if you're calling me a Nazi, you're calling me. You basically want to kill me.
Right.
That's what I get out of that. Like,
Well, so let me veer this off, and then I want to get into your career a little bit. You're talking about tagging people and doing things. The great Hulk Hogan passed away a few months ago.
yeah,
And it seems like the wrestling community and even the world seems to have, for lack of a better term, Johnny, crucified this man over things that he had said or in a moment. And he was just never forgiven, to a fact that many have tarnished this guy's great career, who allowed guys like yourself to make a really good living, and well, how he did. What are your thoughts about the way the fans thought about Hulk Hogan and treated him?
I mean it's terrible because he's basically why we have wrestling. He was the icon in the '80s, and the way that I don't know if you saw that documentary on how Vince used him to grow WWF. And for him, and then I think he was a born again Christian before he passed away. Uh, 20 years ago, we wouldn't be having this conversation because you were allowed to have your different views and political beliefs. But now it's everything that these people that are pointing at us, calling us, doing this, doing that, we're Nazis or we're what's the word? What do they call everyone?
Racist?
Fascist.
No, fascist. Yes. So they're everything that they're pointing at us as they're actually doing.
Correct.
It's so
Correct.
hypocritical.
Yeah.
Like you're pointing the finger at me but you're trying to stop my speech. That's fascism right there. That's like everything that you're doing right now is what you're trying to say that I'm doing, and
Well, if I can hammer it home, and Mike, forgive me, but I have to. This kind of stuff just impales my heart. Being raised by Jewish folk, I have had arguments with my family as they call Donald Trump a Nazi, and I can't even come back to them and look them in the eye because I know I won't get a sane response when I want to tell them, would Adolf Hitler sit down and bring peace between the Palestinians and the Israelis? What are you talking
right,
about?
right. That's all that needs to be said in that
Well,
argument. It was right there.
I
That's
give
it.
up. I give up,
Yeah.
brother. I give
There's
up.
no, like, I got some buddies that are hardcore liberal, and they're some of my best friends. We just don't talk about politics.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We talk about everything but politics. But you
Right.
think the thing is, we still love each other and we can still have conversations,
Right.
but they're not, I've lost some friends, not really family members, but I've lost some friends over.
But Johnny, that's what's missing in the world now. People cannot speak to each other and have different
Yeah.
views. It's either your view or no view.
And it's Charlie Kirk.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Perfect. I want to start like towards the middle of your career. You end up going like to WCW when it's sinking, right? You get there when it's in trouble. Here you are, this jacked, good-looking guy. Do you feel like they just set you up for failure?
Well, I was talking about that earlier. I think the way that I came in was kind of backwards. I came into the power plant. I learned how to do the physical side of wrestling, like the bumping and everything, and putting together a match. But I didn't really learn how to. A lot of guys, they went on the road before they made it to the Fed or WCW. I was so naive, like I said, coming into wrestling. I didn't know WCW was on on the downward spiral. I thought we were just coming off the the Raw Monday Night Wars. I didn't know any better. I got to wrestling thinking that I had made it. Like, this is it. I'm part of the 1%. This is what I'm going to be doing the rest of my life. And I got into wrestling. Russo was up there. Russo helped a lot of the young guys. I don't know how you feel about Vince Russo, but I liked him. He always helped me out. And then when Eric Bischoff came back, he jobbed me and Vito out in 30 seconds to Chronic. So he broke us up. So, I mean, I didn't really know any better. And Vito, he's always been good to me. He always helped me in wrestling. I learned a lot from him on the psychology side of the match. But I when I left WCW and WWE, and then I went to All Japan and then Mexico, that's when I really started learning.
Right.
Put together a match and not like call it in the ring and not just talk about it before, and actually learn how, why did we do this and why did we do that. So I kind of learned backwards.
What did you think when they came to you with the idea of the Mamalukes? Did you feel like they were taking you seriously? Did you like the idea? Did you think like, wait,
I love
this
the
is like
idea because I was a big. I came up with Johnny the Bull, the character from Rocky. Had the hat, they bounced the ball, and I loved Rocky. I loved mafia movies. Everyone said, I looked like De Niro when I made this face. So I when they came up with that obviously when you're trying to make it and they come to you with a storyline and a character, you're gonna, and you've never been in that position before. I was stoked. Like I was over the moon happy with it because
Johnny,
I came in the power plant, and the power plant was kind of a scam because Joey the Assassin was making cash. Like they were advertising these tryouts, and you had to pay $300 for the tryout, and they try to break you because they didn't want to report to WCW on how many guys were coming in and trying out. And Joey was pocketing the cash that everyone was making. So he was pocketing the cash. There were 20 guys on my tryout, and I was the only one that made it. So they would try to literally physically break you so they didn't have to report.
When we had Chuck in, Chuck Palumbo said that not only that, the reason he hung around a lot was because Orndorff had him fixing his car most of the
Oh
time.
yeah, we would pull up to the power plant, and I'd see Chuck
Wonderful.
under Orndorff's Jeep, I think he had at the time, working on his car, and also Orndorff was a knife a fan of knives, and I had a lot of knives at the time, so politically. I would bring in a knife every once in a while and put it on his desk, and like, here you go, that's for you, Paulie. And 9 months later, I'm on TV.
The
So
smart man, smart
yeah,
man.
politics.
I
But
got
I was smart then, but then my opinions got to me later. They haunted, because I was very opinion. I didn't know any better. I was young. I was in my 20s, early 20s. I didn't know shit.
you mentioned Vince Russo earlier, and you're a fan of his. Do
Yeah,
you think in the long run? Okay, so we got to give him tons of credit for the Attitude Era, right?
yeah.
And he was a big part of the WWE winning the Monday Night Wars. But
Yeah.
do you think that his brand of wrestling actually hurt the business in the end?
I mean, outside looking in, yeah, I could say that back then I didn't know any better, but now I do, and I think that it just got too watered down, and they got rid of kayfabe, and it just, I don't know. Like I said, Vince was always good to me, so I can't say anything bad about him. But yeah, I just think, even with how wrestling is today, I don't even watch it anymore, really. But it's just not the same as it was. It's just the storylines, the characters. Like, I was talking with Eric about it the other day, or earlier today. I When I look at a wrestler, I want, from a fan's point of view, I want to look at that person and think, like, that's a bad motherfucker. Like,
Yeah.
he,
Mhm.
he could fuck me up, or whatever. I believe, by just looking at him, that he's going to do whatever he looks like that he wants to do. And I don't feel that with, like, you had the Undertakers, you had the Canes, you had all Macho Man's, the Ultimate Warriors. That's what I grew up on, the characters. And now when I look at it, it's just like so watered down and generic. There's nothing that really stands out to me as far. I mean, I know it's more corporate now, and everything's a spot fest, but I just don't. When I look at wrestling today, I don't feel that feeling of, when I'm watching it, like, for a second, that was real. Like, wow, that guy looks like he can do whatever he wants to do. I don't feel that way anymore about it.
Do you think that it starts with, here I go, Mike, the nerdy historian, because I remember my partner calling me and saying to me, some guy who looks like my mailman just came down the ramp. And I said, I already knew who it was. I
Yeah,
said, are you talking about Kevin Owens? And he
yeah,
said, yeah, Kevin Owens. And then there was Sami Zayn. And then there was, of course, Daniel Bryan. So was that like the beginning of, hey, I'm just a guy, instead of
yeah.
I'm Hulk Hogan, or I'm the Ultimate Warrior, or does it really kind of start there?
Exactly. They just look like someone that just delivered DoorDash to you. Yeah,
Very good.
yeah. Like,
How much of a percentage would you give credit? Because Mike and I do believe this. Look, Vince Russo accomplished some great things, but without Vince McMahon's filter, how much of the credit do you give to Vince to be able to pull the stuff that will work out of Russo? Because we know what happened afterwards.
afterwards, yeah. It's kind of like when Belichick left, when
Oh,
left Brady.
oh boy.
You know what I mean? Like, it's not. It just wasn't. You had to have certain pieces together to bring out certain things out of people, and then when that piece is missing, they're just not. It's not the same dynamic. So yeah, I think as brilliant as he is in wrestling, I just think when that piece was taken away, because Vince was able to kind of keep him in control, like, his ideas, and because Vince Russo had so many good ideas, but also there were so many that just, you have to reel them in, and Vince was good at doing that with him. And once that was gone, it was just a open playing field of whatever, just throwing it on TV just to see if it would work, throwing it against the wall.
Throwing the shit against the wall.
Yeah,
Did Vince Russo? I know I know you feel very highly of him. But did Vince Russo ultimately kill WCW, or were there just too many other determining factors, and he was just part of a perfect shitstorm?
Well, I think The Office killed WCW. I think like there was a lot of guys that had family members on payroll that weren't even wrestling, that were just sitting there at home for years. They were just getting paid. Like they're Wyatt, their cousin. Like I think The Office cousin, like family members just sitting at home getting paid.
Wow, really?
I can't verify that, but that's just
Man.
that's what we all heard that was going on.
Are you talking like Lanny Poffo, that type of thing?
That's
true.
He said it himself. Oh boy.
I just think the bad managing of the company and just letting people and Kevin Nash, awesome dude. He's always been good to me, and he came in and got paid millions to work with WCW, and I don't blame him. But guys like that coming in and soaking up all the revenue, and then bad management to boot with that, and it was a perfect storm of chaos that took it down.
You brought up Vince McMahon. What are your thoughts about the allegations that came out within the last couple of years about him? And what are your basic thoughts about the whole situation?
I mean, I think it's terrible. The person that I truly don't like that was a part of that, and I think is a rat, is John Laurinaitis. And I think that it was well known in the industry what John Laurinaitis would do. Like he would use his power to over these divas, over these women, and I kind of think that you put those people together and they think that they're untouchable. Power can make certain people go crazy, and what he did was terrible, and I don't like. It's still allegations, right? There's nothing. It's just he said.
It's still allegations, right?
Yep. Yeah. So if he did everything that was said that he did, I mean, he's dead to me. I mean, I don't like what was the girl? What was the girl's name that she committed suicide? What was her name? Was it
Ashley Massaro? Yeah.
Yeah, and I think Laurinaitis had like something to do with that, as far as like not physically, but her mental. I just think he's a piece of shit, and whatever happens to John Laurinaitis, he's deserving.
So you're not surprised that John Laurinaitis turned on Vince McMahon,
not at all.
Then went back to Vince McMahon, then turned on him again?
Yeah, no, not at all. He's trash.
He's going to make a hell of a character witness.
You seem really angry about him. Is there not in a? I don't want to. Can you give me an example where
he would always tell me, Johnny, you're a part-time wrestler. I'm wrestling fucking 250 days a year. He would find me fucking. If I showed up 5 minutes, I'm with Rey Mysterio. We're in traffic. I show up 5 minutes late. Rey's a full-time wrestler. I'm going to charge you. You're going to have $500 fine. You got to be here on time. And just little shit. Johnny, you're on the bubble. He's always fucking with me. He was always like, instead of like trying to embrace me and like I said, I was naive. And he would always. There were things that I wanted to do to him that I never did. That I wanted to do that I'm glad I never did, because it's not healthy to think like that. But he's just the shit that I would hear that he would do to with girls. He's just I didn't like him at all. I didn't like, and then the shit that he would do to me, and I didn't know any better. So and I just took it because that's all I knew at that point. See, before I got into wrestling, I was growing marijuana. I had 5 grow houses in Atlanta with 150 plants in each basement. And I got stabbed 5 times before I went to the power plant. I got stabbed here. I got stabbed here, here, and here. So that's what made me get out of that life. And I didn't like, when someone told me about this tryout, and I was a wrestling fan growing up, so I went. DDP told me about the tryout, about the power plant, because I was working out over at Main Event with Sting and Lex Luger. They own the gym. That's how I met all these guys, and then I went through that tryout. And wrestling made a man out of me. It turned my life around, regardless of how it went, and how how my exiting of wrestling happened. It made a man out of me, and it humbled me, and I'm one of the few that was able to leave wrestling and learn how to do something else, because there's a lot of wrestlers that can't. They're so entitled, and they believe the hype on their characters. They think that they're better than learning something new, and I feel bad for those people, because it's hard. It's not easy coming from the wrestling world and going into real life and trying to make a life for yourself. Not
Well,
easy. You have to humble yourself. You have to be willing to take whatever comes.
well, let me ask you that. Being that you're in this small microcosm, you talked about working out with Sting and Lex Luger. As this all plays out and you're starting to live your life and you're hearing about Lex Luger, with Elizabeth ODing, Chris Benoit taking the lives of his family, Chris Cannon suicide, Ashley
Mhm.
Massaro suicide. How does that
Test,
play? How does that
overdose,
test? Yeah, how does
Among
that
Us,
play with?
overdose.
How does that play with your psyche?
That was all. That all went into my decision to stop wrestling. All that, even like the movie with Mickey Rourke, the wrestler. I didn't want to be Mickey Rourke at 50, because I'm 48 now. I don't want to be 50 years old, no relationships with your family, always on the road, still trying to make it. I saw that, and I got really. I watched it at the theater, and I was like, wow, I
Done.
don't want to be that guy. So then,
Well,
you
well,
add that to all
I
my
got,
buddies dying.
I got to ask a question though. But you did enjoy the wrestler, the movie itself,
I,
right?
I
Uh-oh.
I thought it was a great movie, but it
Here we
also
go.
really,
But
really
was the one scene
struck
that
a
you
nerve.
hated? Was the one scene that you hated was the guy standing taking a picture with Mickey Rourke, the fan, when Mickey Rourke is signing?
Well, yeah, that was showed up an autograph session. There was
Yeah.
no one there. I was like, and I've seen that before, and I was like, and then like he's working as at a grocery store, and then in the like
Oh,
it was so depressing. I was just like, I did not want to be that guy. So
Wow.
that was I thank you,
great
Mickey
movie
Rourke,
though.
for making that movie, because it helped my decision. And plus,
Hey,
all
can
my
I ask?
buddies dying. Like I spoke with Umunga 2 weeks before he passed away. He called me up. He was slurring his words. I was like,
Mm.
you're telling me you're off the somas, but I can hear it in your voice. And he's like, no, I promise you, I'm not doing any. I was like, Eddie, you're slurring your words. Like I can hear it. I had the same conversation with Tess too before he died. I was like, Drew, I called him Drew. He was like, you're slurring your words. I could hear it. I could see the downward spiral. And speaking of Chris Benoit, I used to travel with him a lot. I would watch his matches. I would watch like the little things that he would do, like when he would shoot someone off. He wouldn't just shoot them off. He would drop and put his weight. Like he would drop, put his weight, and shoot them off. Or when someone's trying to grab him, like everything was a fight with him. Like I watched his matches because I respected him so much, because he was one of one of the as far as like watching a wrestling match, he was one of my favorites to watch, just because of the little things that he did. Not necessarily that I could do any of the things that he would do, but I tried to soak in whatever he could. And then when I found out what happened, it was crazy to me, because I used to do squats and stuff in the locker room with his son. His son would come back there, and we were just doing air squats together. And then Eddie Guerrero.
Oh yeah.
And then another thing that leaked on the dirt. You remember the dirt sheets back in the day? So I had a doctor, Dr. Wilbert, in Scottsdale, and Mark Coleman was going there. I would be sitting in the office waiting to go see Dr. Mark Coleman would be there, and all the boys needed some pain pills. They needed a doctor, and this doctor was a doc in the box. and we would just sign a name, would go in, and he would give me hundreds. I'd have bottles this big of Percocets, Vicodin, Somas, and I hooked like every time the boys would come into town. I'm not saying any names, but uh, they would all go see Dr. Wilbur, and I connected them with Dr. Wilbur. And then when Eddie Guerrero died, then Chris Benoit died, my name leaked on the dirt sheets that somehow, because I hooked them up with a doctor, that this is all insider stuff that a lot of people don't know. I mean, I even met the DEA came and met at my house, and I had to go meet with the DEA asking about Dr. Wilbur. And I met with him, and they were like, there's nothing, we're not going after you. We're not going after any of the boys. We just want to know your relationship with Dr. Wilbur. And I told him everything. But back then, that's kind of like when I got released, was after all that shit happened with Eddie.
Not to cut you off, but so at some point, no one blamed Chris Benoit for what he did. They were blaming you for getting him the drugs.
No, it wasn't blaming me. It's just everything that was going on at that time with pain pills and Chris killing himself and his family and Eddie Guerrero dying and then my name leaking. Like they just wanted to, wipe their hands clean of everything.
Right.
So I was kind of collateral damage, but they weren't blaming me for CTE is what happened to Chris Benoit. His brain was damaged.
Well, so I want to ask you, when Chuck was here, I asked, we asked a couple of guys that have been around Benoit, and Chuck was very candid in saying he was very weary of Chris, even back then. He made him feel very uncomfortable. How did he make you feel?
He was. I just thought he was just an awkward person. I just thought that's just how he was. I didn't really. He was kind of a quiet person, but he also, like, if you tried to talk to him, and he would really sit down and talk with you and give you advice, but you had to but he was kind of an awkward person for sure, and I could see why Chuck would say that. Absolutely, he was different, but I mean, he was great. Like to be where at the level he was at, with all the things that he did in Japan. I mean, he was, I didn't really know about CTE then either. I didn't know about concussions. I get a concussion, I go back out and wrestle. It didn't matter to me. But I didn't, now knowing what I know now, I can see why that, because a lot of football players, commit suicide or they kill people over CTE. But yeah, I can see why Chuck would think that he was weird because of just the way that Chris Benoit was. Eddie Guerrero is the complete opposite. Like he was always happy, positive. But Chris Benoit would show up at my room at night, 1 a.m. He couldn't sleep and he would want some Xanax. And he was popping, before everything that happened, he was popping Xanax like crazy, like candy. So, I mean, I've seen the downward spiral of pills, and I just quit cold turkey. Like I just stopped. Like probably when I was 28, I just stopped taking. I was taking 20 pills a day, and I just stopped taking it. And you're not supposed to do that. You're supposed to wean yourself off.
Right.
And I went through like 2 weeks of this. It was terrible. But then I haven't taken what now. If I take a pain pill, it's if I'm like if I tore my tricep. So obviously when I had surgery, I took some pain. But even then though, it made me feel like really shitty because it would bring that feeling back of being addicted to pain pills. So now I'll take an Advil every once in a while, but that's about it.
Do you think that when an athlete is as great as a Chris Benoit or an O.J. Simpson, and they do something as horrible as they did, whatever the reason is, do you think they should be wiped away from the annals of history, or do you think that the art and the person should be separated?
I think the art and the person should be separated. I think that I got my own conspiracy theories about O.J. Simpson. I think his son did it, but and he's protecting his son. But I think Chris Benoit was sick, and when people are sick, you should be able to separate the art from his sickness and celebrate what he did for wrestling and keep the disgusting side of it away from that. And they completely removed him from all WWE. Like they completely and the dude was he was a Picasso in the ring. Like every match didn't matter who he was wrestling. You're going to have an awesome match with him. So
are you able to still watch his matches?
Yeah, I could. Yeah, okay. I could still. Yeah.
Okay, what would you say?
Because I knew.
Johnny, I'm sorry. What would you say to the conspiracy theorists out there who swear up and down that Chris didn't do this, that use CTE as a trampoline / excuse for what happened that night and come up with conspiracy theories? What's your thoughts on stuff like that?
If I could add on to that, Jimmy, there's also conspiracy theories that Vince McMahon had him murdered, and even as ridiculous as Kevin Sullivan had him murdered.
Yeah, I've heard all that. I just think it's the CTE went crazy. I think that his wife cheated on him. He found out about it. He killed her by accident, realized what he did. His son had Fragile X syndrome, had a condition. He didn't want someone else raising his kid. So in his demented mind at the time, he thought, I think he gave his son some Xanax. He passed out, and then he choked his son out and killed his son. That's what from what I understood that happened. And I just think that he was sick. I don't think there's any other conspiracy theories that support other than him being sick and going crazy after he found out his wife cheated on him.
There it is.
What death hurt you the most?
Shit. Because I was close with Umaga. We went to wrestling camp together. Love that dude. We were in Japan. Wrestled him 1,000 times. He was good. He was good to me. Eddie Guerrero was Andrew Test. I would say probably Eddie Fatu, Umaga, because we were just so close. Probably really was the hardest out of all of them. Just because we went through the trenches together. So we did everything, and we'd always get each other booked, whether it was in Italy or we'd always help each other out. We always looked out for each other. So that was probably the one that really hurt the most.
You know, Mike, it's really sad. You asked him such a hard question, and he comes up with a fistful of names before he has to make a decision. That's sad.
Yeah,
sad business.
That's not normal. It's not normal.
No, it's not.
I think there were probably 20 people at the power plant or in wrestling camp that I went with in general. You know, Charlie Hoff's brother, Russ Hoff. What was his name? He was really good too. He was from Boston. I forget. He died. Can't remember his name right now. Anyway, there were 20 people that I went to wrestling camp with. 10 are dead. That's a 50% ratio.
That's crazy.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, just if you think at it like that, 50% of the people that I started with were dead. And that's another reason why I got out of wrestling. Just the whole, and I know it's different now, but when I was doing it was the Wild West. We would go out and party 24 hours, party on hardcore for 24 hours, and then show up, no sleep, and wrestle the next day.
I meant to ask, you brought up Ashley Massaro. Were you around when she was in the WWE?
No, she was there after me, but I just, after hearing that story, and then I don't know how Laurinaitis pulled the wool over the Bella Twins' mom's eyes. He's married to the mom, right?
And by the way, when this whole Janelle Grant thing was going on, she had brain cancer, but he still partook in that whole situation also, right?
Doesn't surprise. He's a scumbag. Doesn't surprise me. But how, like, the wrestling world knew what a scumbag he was. How did the Bella Twins not either they didn't know that, or they just didn't care? How would they let someone like that come into their lives and marry their mom? You know, I don't know if they knew, but we knew. I knew in WCW that he was a scumbag, but I didn't. You know, I was 20 years old. I was 21. I didn't know shit from shit.
Right. That's a really good point, man. You know what? They should have known about that, and they should have tried to protect their mom. I can't disagree.
Yeah.
I got to ask you. You had such a great gimmick with Johnny the Bull. What makes you become the Relic?
I went over to Japan. I was the fake Great Muda, and I loved Muda's gimmick so much that when I came back over, I wanted to reinvent myself, and I was a big fan of Muda, so I I got a picture of Darth Maul, Jeepers Creepers, and Spawn, and I went up to my buddy over at AFX Studios, Andre. He's done a lot. He's done a lot of the wrestlers' gear. Like I think he did. What was his name? Ray. Is it Ray Lloyd?
Oh, Glacier.
Glacier. He did his gear. He did Mortis his gear.
I remember Mortis.
He
Yeah.
did Triple H's crown when he came out. He did a lot of the belts. He did all the special effects for Walking Dead. His studio's in Atlanta. So I went over. I gave him those pictures, and he took a molding of my face, made a mask, and I just wanted to reinvent myself. So then I took that character, and I contacted WWE, and they were like, "All right, we're going to book you on a week worth of house shows as that character," and it went great. I wrestled Val Venus the whole week, and if you have a bad match with Val Venus, and you're the shits, you're terrible. And we every night, and whether the people knew that I was Johnny the Bull or not, standing ovations every time we had, at the end of the match, we're walking out. The fans loved it. They loved the character. But I had me and Chuck, maybe Chuck told you, me and Chuck and Nunzio had beef with Arn Anderson because Arn, we were over in England, and I have total respect for Arn. Like I think he's done a lot of great. I can separate my personal issues with what he's done in the wrestling world. I mean, he's an icon in my opinion. But let me just point that out before I say this. We went over. We were in England, and he was kind of sick too. He was an alcoholic, and he was drinking, binge drinking, and me and Chuck got in a big argument with him. Chuck told him he was going to knock his head off his shoulders, and before we know it, they're sending Arn home. Made him go to rehab for 6 months. Fast forward to my tryout on those house shows. Who's the booking agent? Arn Anderson.
Ugh.
I was supposed to be on TV that night on Raw on Monday night after the live shows, but Arn buried me to Stephanie McMahon. Said I didn't know the character. He said I didn't know the character. So Stephanie told me that she wanted me to go develop the character some more before they brought me back. So then that's when I went to TNA and did the Relic thing at TNA, and it wasn't their character. They used me for that thumbtack match with Abyss, Raven, and Black Rain. And then after that, they were just booking the character. Like they didn't give a shit about it. They would put me in matches that like Relic is a monster. You can't put Relic in there and chain wrestle. That's not what Relic does. So they just used. I think they wasted the character. So I wanted to protect the character. So I just left TNA. And the money sucked anyway. It wasn't like if you weren't one of the top guys there, if you weren't Kurt Angle, you weren't getting shit. So I just left there, and that's when I went over to CMLL. And I brought Mark Jindrak with me over there. And then I went over to AAA as I actually did AAA as Relic, and CMLL as Johnny Stamboli. But yeah, that's what happened. Arn Anderson we had beef with Arn Anderson. He buried me on the report to Stephanie McMahon, and then everything else is history.
How is Stephanie though? I'm surprised that she just took his word and didn't even talk to you. You hear that she's such a great listener.
I was shocked because Shane McMahon was my boy. Every time Shane McMahon was in a booking meeting or whatever, I got pushed. I won my matches. And then when Shane wasn't there, and whoever had Vince's ear or Stephanie's ear at the time, that's kind of when Shane left, that's kind of when the FBI started getting broken up. I think he left in like 2004, I believe. So, but Stephanie she was always really, really open to speaking with me and nice. So I was kind of shocked that's how, I honestly think that Laurinaitis had something to do with it. Because Laurinaitis put me, like, I went back and he put me in the ring with Kofi. And no, this is kind of unknown, but at 3:00 in the afternoon, out of the blue, called me to the ring, called Kofi to the ring, Triple H and everyone standing around told me to, and they know John Laurinaitis knew how I was trained. The power plant, right? The power plant, they teach you how to bump and do all the moves, but like just getting out there and calling it and like on the fly. And I was so fucking nervous, like that everyone was watching. I froze up. I kept fucking up in the match. And Laurinaitis did that to me. This is where my hate ultimately comes from. Is Laurinaitis put me in that position? He knew my weaknesses, and Kofi's a great dude. He's talented, but he knew my weaknesses, and he stabbed me in the back, twisted the knife with that, and that's the last time I went over to I tried to go back to WWE. It was after that. After he buried me like that, that was a wrap.
Were you ever able to get anywhere near Vince? Who was Vince McMahon to you? I mean, were you able to get to him ever? And how did
Well,
he
yeah,
strike you?
when I brought that character Relic over, Stephanie told me, she goes, go put on the gimmick, and Vince wants to come meet with you. Vince came out, he walked around and looked at it. He goes, it's great. He goes, I'm happy you were able to reinvent yourself. That's great. That's part of that's part of wrestling. Like sometimes you have to reinvent yourself. So he loved the character, but at the end of the day, you get people in his ear telling him one thing, and it's very political. So Vince, it wasn't like I had a close relationship with him, but he was the one thing that I can say when I wrestled Rikishi, and Rikishi is the man. I love Rikishi. He's my boy. And when I pressed Rikishi on TV, that was the day that made me. Like he made me that day. He goes, "You think you can press me on TV?" I was like, "I don't know. Let's try it." So we tried it backstage. He goes, "Now, do you think you can do it in front of the fans?" I said, "Well, I guess we're going to find out, right?" I went out there, called the spot. We did it. And then I came back. Vince, standing ovation. Vince was standing and clapping. He loves that kind of shit. When you can do real shit like that, Vince loves it. So that day made me. And, from that point going forward, I saw like a different side of how wrestlers can be. I saw like people getting jealous of your push because they were getting a push. I saw people wanting to come and present ideas to you and try to work with you. And then I saw like Brock Lesnar, for example, because Vince goes, "I want you to press everybody because that's your gimmick, because you're pound for pound the strongest wrestler, and I want you to press everybody." So I'm getting ready to wrestle Brock, and of course, if Brock doesn't want you pressing him, you're not going to. So Brock came up to me, he goes, Vince told me to tell you, because I was getting ready to wrestle Brock. He goes, "Vince told me to tell you that he doesn't want you pressing me tonight." I said, "That's weird because Vince told me that he wants me to press everybody." So, and then I went over to Vince. I asked Vince. I was like, "Yeah, Brock told me that you didn't want me to press him, and you told me that you want me to do that every." He goes, "I never said that. I want you to do it to everybody." So then I went back to Brock, and of course we put the match together, and I mean it was a good match, and I made him look great. I came up with a finish where I put him in an arm bar, and he basically power slammed me out of the arm bar. He picked me up raw. The dude is. I've never been thrown so far in my life. The dude is just one of the strongest persons I've ever met in my life. And and Brock is a cool dude, but he was protecting his character, so I don't blame him. I'm not mad at him for it, but I started seeing a difference of how people, once you started getting push like that, I started seeing how people started playing out, like how they started, jockeying to get into position to work you or to sabotage you. You know what I mean? So
The politics.
Well,
Yeah.
you mentioned in the beginning of the program how you were speaking with Cena in the gym about juice.
Yeah.
Cena, again, we're just fans, so I'm going to ask you. Cena was known through the dirt sheets and everything else, and from interviews, and we've spoke to a few people, that he tried to hold down talent whenever he thought they were going to actually make a move and become, at his level. Is that the John Cena you knew?
No, the John Cena I knew, we would travel together. We would sit in circles with all the wrestlers on a bus, and we would freestyle. I'm terrible at freestyling, rapping, but we'd
Right.
sit there on the bus, and it would go in a circle. You're freestyling, and the next person to your left would always get it, and every time Cena was always to my left, so I had to freestyle on Cena and talk shit, and every time he obliterated me every time. And no, I stuck around with Cena. Here's another funny story. So we were in Saginaw, Michigan. I had some girls in the excursion after a live event, and I'm not going to say any names who was in the excursion with me, but we had a flight back to Connecticut. It was a private charter, and we went to Applebee's and just kind of killed some time, and then we showed up late, an hour late to the private charter, and I always knew that if I stuck with Cena, the Golden Boy, that the heat was I wasn't gonna the heat was gonna be deflected. So I'm the first one to walk into the charter. Triple H and Stephanie are sitting there, and they just looked at me. They're just like, and then Cena walked in right behind me, and they're like, ah. So it was kind of like, I always knew who to stick with to and then another funny story, I had to go to wrestler's court. So Undertaker was the judge, and this is how they police a lot of the guys internally. So when I first came up to WWE, when they started bringing me on TV, Steven Regal, who I love, he's great. He's always helped me. He's always been super just. He's one of my favorite dudes in terms of getting advice and learning from. But I had one of the security guards carry my bag in, and I tipped the security guard. And Steven Regal walking behind me goes, "I've been wrestling 20 years. I've never had anyone carry my bag in." I was like, I'm just trying to tip the guy to help him. He's like, started shaking his head, and then I'm like, fuck, all right. So then I'm in the back room with a trainer, and he's putting like he's wiping oil on my back. The trainer, and Steven Regal opens the door and looks in, shakes his head, closes the door. And then before I know it, I get a summons to go to wrestler's court. And I'm like, fuck, how do I get out of this? Bradshaw was the prosecuting attorney. Undertaker was the judge. So what I did was
Wait a minute, but who's your defense attorney?
That's where it's getting funny. That's where it's going to get funny. So I was like, how do I get out of this? So I started bright. So I knew Regal was a witness. I knew he liked reptiles. So I got him this really nice reptile book. I bribed him, and then I knew Undertaker liked Jack Daniels. Got him a big ass bottle of Jack Daniels, and then Bradshaw loved Jim Beam. I got him a big ass bottle of Jim Beam, and then I was like, how can I get out of this heat? Who's got more heat than me? Raven's got more heat than me. So I hired Raven as my defense attorney. So we get into wrestler's court. All the boys went back. We're in wrestler's court, And Undertaker goes, since you did so much bribing with everyone here, I'm dropping all charges on you and moving all the charges onto Raven. Because you're dismissed. So, and then they prosecuted Raven.
And
that's how I got out of that.
What would a typical fine be from Wrestlers Court?
It could be you walk around in the back with a dress on, for a month straight, or it's kind of there's serious Wrestlers Court, and then there's just fun and games, and they were just kind of hazing me a little bit.
Right.
And it was fun, but there's it could be something like as stupid as that.
Did you ever have
something more serious, depending on what the level of what happened. So,
did you ever have any interactions with Shawn Michaels?
Not really. I mean, he wasn't really approachable. He wasn't really. I mean, he wasn't a dick to me, but he just wasn't. He wasn't available. The Rock was always cool. Like, I would always be watching the matches. Like, I would always watch every match. I'd stay for the show, and I'd watch even if my match was over, I would stay and watch every match. And when I first met The Rock, because I have a bull, Johnny the Bull, tatted on my shoulder. I'm standing there watching the match, and The Rock comes up and he looks at me. He's watching it with me. We're both watching, and he looks over and he goes, nice bull tattoo. I said, yep, it's my birth sign. He goes, there's nothing to do with you. He started laughing. And then he took me out one night. We broke bread. We ate. Like, he was always super cool. Like, he was humble. You would think he'd be an asshole. He's humble, just a nice guy.
How about Triple H? Triple H, how was he?
Triple H was cool. Like, he was. I mean, he's all about business, and he was always cool to me. Like, I don't have any bad things to say about Triple H at all. And I'll at this point in my career, I'll tell you whatever. I don't give it. If I get heat, I don't care. This is not my life anymore.
Right.
I'll tell you whatever. If you ask me something, I'll tell you. I have nothing to hide.
How do you feel about the future of professional wrestling in general, and why do you not watch wrestling anymore? Is it just like, you just disengaged, or, what do you feel about today's product? If you don't watch it, what made you stop watching it, and where do you think it's heading?
I just think it's just not as I'm not as engaged. I don't connect with the characters anymore. If I'm watching it as a fan, like we were talking about earlier, I want to see. If I look at a wrestler, I want to believe that he's not my DoorDash driver. I want to believe that he's a character. It's a comic book. I'm watching a comic book right now play out, and that's what I don't feel that wrestling's like that anymore. And I just don't. There's no one that really that grabs my attention, and then also it makes me kind of like miss it too. I loved wrestling so much, and it was a part of my life, and the camaraderie of the boys and the traveling. There's a lot of it that I miss. So if I watch it, it kind of makes me miss it. So I just kind of turn the page on it. And my wife doesn't really. I met my wife far after that. She doesn't really understand, everything that I did in the past and my life and the way it was. So even for me to come and do this now, she kind of gave me a little shit about it, but she's like, you're going through a midlife crisis.
Well,
you're still trying to be around. I'm like, no, I'm not. Like, I was like, babe, this was my life for so long that
when you met her and you were going to start dating her, was she like, what did you do for a living? Were you like, I'm a wrestler? Like was it?
I was already mostly out of it by then. I was actually running we had a show that we ran in Phoenix, Arizona, IFL, and not IFL. What was it? I can't remember right now. Too many chair shots. But we had a local show on local television, and we would have 200-300 people at night that we would throw these shows at the Celebrity Theater in Phoenix, and we had a little wrestling school that we would train wrestlers. What's the dude's name that he's friends with Gronk? what was that guy's name? He's not wrestling anymore. He used to be a football player. This was probably in the last 10 years. He was good friends with Rob Gronkowski. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, Mojo Riley.
Mojo.
Riley. Yeah, that's right.
Taught him how to. I
Mojo
showed him how to
Riley.
hit. I showed him how to hit the ropes and take his first bump
Wow.
in Phoenix before he blew up.
Riley.
Yeah. You know, she met me around that time as I was like stepping out. And my last match was, she saw my last match was with Hurricane. It was Relic versus Hurricane. It was a really good match too. Do you ever see that documentary, The Iceman, the serial killer?
Yes. Uh-huh.
You know how because he was so tall, sometimes he would kill people. He would wrap a chain around their neck and stand up,
Mm-hmm.
and they would choke. So I'd walk as Relic. I'd walk out with this chain, and then I told Hurricane, I was like, I want to do this. I want to try this on you. So I wrapped it around his neck.
Try
I stood up and I walked around. That's I don't know. It's that dude was fucked up, but I mean, it was a great documentary.
Johnny, what was your best payday?
Ooh.
Probably, I would have to say WrestleMania when we were at Seattle. It was 2003. Yeah, I think it was 2003. We weren't on like a main match, but still. And then I would get rolled every time I was on a lot of like John Cena videos, so I'd get royalties off of that.
Do you still get royalties?
Every once in a while, it would either be $500 or $1,200. It was every quarter. Now it's kind of dwindling down to like $200, $300, but I still get royalties, but not as much as I used to. And
So-
they the way that they stream now, they don't have to pay you. So if someone streams your video of your match, they don't have to pay you.
That's fun.
Or if they design your wrestling character on the video game, like they can design Johnny the Bull to a T, but they don't have to pay you.
Wow.
Yeah, because the fan is designing it. Wasn't programmed into the game, so that's the way they get out of paying you.
That's pretty smart, I guess. Listen, I know Laurinaitis is a big dick. Who else was a big dick to you in wrestling?
Really, that's it. I had a encounter with Bubba one time where I think something got fucked up in the match, and then we came back and he was yelling at me in front of everybody. I pulled him to the side. I was like, Bubba, you could yell at me all you want to if I fuck up, but don't do it in front of people. Like I was like, you do that again, we're gonna have problems. And then from there, he was super nice, and he was like when I got released, he was one of the only. It was shocking. He was one of the only people that called me after I got released. Laurinaitis was really the only person I had issues with. Everyone else, even Bradshaw, Bradshaw was like really cool to me after I had his back at a bar one night. You know, big fight was about to break out, and I was right there with him, ready to go. And he loved that. So his whole. I got a funny story. So we're getting ready to go on an overseas trip, a private charter, and I told what's his name, Rene Dupree. So I finally broke down and told Rene Dupree. I did one of his podcasts, and I told him this story because the French guys that we'd always fuck with them, like you're gay, this, whatever. We fuck with them a little bit. So Sly too. So we're going through the chart, like through the X-ray, like through TSA or whatever. And I got a Playgirl magazine, and I put a pair of scissors, and I was always a jokester. I put a pair of scissors in the Playgirl magazine. I put it in his carry-on bag. And then we're going through the X-ray through security. All the guys are standing there. Bradshaw's right there. And it goes through security. He pulls out the Playgirl magazine, opens it up where the scissors were, and Renee's like, "That's not mine. I don't know who put that there. That's not mine." And then Bradshaw turns around. He goes, "I knew it. I knew you wasn't queer. I knew it." So I'm cracking up. I'm trying to hold it in. We get onto the plane, and Renee's like, "Did you put that in my bag?" I was like, "I have no idea what you're talking about." have no idea what you're talking about. Denied it until like last year. I did a podcast with Renee, and I broke down and I told him about it, and we laughed about it then. Yeah, I got a lot of funny stories like that. I think I hid someone's gear. I forget it. Who was it? I don't know. Everyone, we were all, but everyone. The only person that I can say anything bad about is Laurinaitis.
Well, we want to be. You have valuable time. You need to get some rest. You got the big event, so I'm going to hit you with the hardest question of the night, okay? And then we're going to let you go. Eric Sims, ESS Promotion, is promoting you. You're at the big event. Please see Johnny the Bull. He's gonna kill it. Rare appearance, guys. Don't lose this opportunity in meeting Johnny the Bull. Great guy, obviously, as you could tell from this interview. But I have to ask you, Johnny, you're friends with Big Vito. We all know that Vito and Eric have had issues in the past.
Yeah.
What can be done to get these guys make up, hug, and become friends again?
I don't know. I was talking to Eric about that earlier. I want to be able to do something with Vito. Vito's. I got nothing but good things to say about Vito. Vito's always been really good to me. Good advice. He's always, he always checks. He's always checked on me. He's always, even if I didn't call him, he's always called me. I want to have a conversation with Vito and see if we can get them together, because I want to do something with the Mama Lukes again. I think, the clock's ticking there. We only have a small window. I'm in great shape right now. I think if something's going to happen, it has to be done soon. So I would love to work it out. I think if it is going to work out, I'm going to have to be the one that to try to facilitate that and see if I can put them together and because there's some money to be made there, I think, and I think Vito, in his situation, God bless his wife, but she's sick.
Mm-hmm.
So if we could kind of make bygones, be bygones, and I think Eric would apologize. I think Vito. I think if someone could be the better man, I think Eric's going to have to be the one to apologize.
But do you think that that Vito takes wrestling too seriously?
Not. Yeah. I can see how people would say
Sims
that.
in the back. Way to go, Sims. We're trying to bridge a gap. We're trying to do what Donald Trump did, and you're in the back.
We're trying. We're trying to arrange a sit down where you'll treat them at Burger King, and you're blowing it, Eric. Go ahead, please. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Johnny.
I think that it can be done if Eric stops trying to stir the pot. I think that Vito. This is all Vito knows. I think that he takes it seriously.
Yeah.
And I don't blame him. Like this is his life. This is all he's done for, I don't know, 40 years.
Forever.
So, and he's really good at it. But he does rub people the wrong way, and he does take it seriously. But that's, if you know Vito, you know that's just how he is. Like you accept people for how they are, and you let them act a certain way because that's Vito. I just think that hopefully we can get it all worked out to where we can do something with the Mama Lukes, or even like bring in, if I can get Disco, the manager of champions, to come back, me, Disco, and Vito, or even get all the FBI together. All the everyone that's still that can work or whatever. That would be cool too, to get Nunzio, Chuck. I just gave Eric Chuck's number today. I don't know. I think there's some money to be made up here Northeast with the FBI, all of us and Mama Luke's. I think if Eric can swallow his pride.
And Johnny, I gotta be honest with you. You better quiet down a little bit. Your wife hears this, you're gonna be in a shitload of trouble, dude. Because you've got the itch back, dude.
Well, I tell you what,
the itch is back.
You know how I negotiate?
Not to wrestle.
You know how I negotiate with my wife is I give her half.
There you
I
Okay.
give her half of what
Okay.
like, babe,
Yeah.
here's half of what I made. So
Yeah.
yeah,
So
that's how that works.
there's been peace in the
Smart.
Middle East. Now we're
Yeah.
looking for peace
Hey.
by Johnny the Bull with Eric Sims and Big
Who
V.
would have thought? Who would have thought that I'm the one
Listen,
negotiating this?
Johnny, if you do this, I will recommend the Nobel Peace Prize for you.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. Yes. For
Yeah.
actually doing something. For actually doing something, yes. This will I'm gonna hold you to that. We're gonna have this
Absolutely.
conversation. We're gonna have this conversation in 12 months from now, okay?
Absolutely.
We're gonna
All
have a
right.
sit down.
Jimmy, you want to send us out? Johnny, thank you so
Yeah.
much. Great interview, great man. I will see you tomorrow. Jimmy will see you tomorrow.
Okay, cool.
Jimmy, send us out, buddy.
We'll be seeing everybody tomorrow at the big event on Long Island. You've been watching Monte The Pharaoh with Johnny the Bull until the AM when this vampire actually has to rise once more. Later.
Couple things I want to cover, Jimmy.
Yeah.
500 level has now improved on the M&P code. Now go to MP30 for 30% off. Jimmy, I got to tell you something, right? I was at the beach, again, 500 level. If you guys haven't looked at the shirts, right, go to the website. It's incredible. And I got to be honest, right? So it was a little chilly today. I brought the dogs to the beach. I was off work for the Jewish
cold
holidays,
today.
right?
It's cold.
It was cold,
Yeah.
but
Well,
I have from 500 level, I have a Roman Reigns sweatshirt. Now, usually sweatshirts are not always the nicest fabric, unless I'm into really nice fabric because I just don't like things up against my skin. So
Yeah.
usually I'll get thinner type of shirts, but this is a heavy sweatshirt. The fabric, unbelievable. And you're going to get a deal at 30% off, Jimmy. I mean, my God, it's a no-brainer, guys. I am telling you, once you get one shirt from them, you'll get 50. I
they're so
guarantee
comfortable.
it.
They're
And they've got
so
all the
comfortable.
sports. Yeah, dude, tell me what you think of it, Jimmy.
They're so comfortable. I got to get a long sleeve now. I'm telling you, I got to, because it was chilly today, especially for a guy who's been in Panama City Beach the last 2 years. It was chilly today, and I love the material. It's so silky. Is that the right word for it? I don't know.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely, dude.
It's so comfortable. So yeah, I got to get myself some leveled long sleeves. That's for sure. 30%.
And again,
off,
it doesn't. They got plenty of wrestling stuff. They got baseball stuff. They've got football. They got everything, dude. MMA. They got it all, man. And I'm telling you, it's very high quality. Again, 500 level code MP30, 30% off. So if a T-shirt costs you $20, what's 30% off on $20, dude?
It's enough. 10 plus another 20% tacked on top. Not much. It's a steal. It's a steal.
I agree. I want to remind everybody too, the Monte and the Pharaoh show, hit the QR code, be willing to check out our shows on YouTube, where we got almost 24,000 subscribers. Go to our Facebook page where we're approaching 27,000 subscribers. And again, if you feel like donating to the show, please go to the Monte and the Pharaoh webpage, hit donate. Helps us bring in more guests, trying to entertain. Jim, we've got the big event coming up. So